Hi, my name is Dane Fitzmaurice. As far as my background in web development goes, I had a bit of an interesting start. I went to school at George Mason University for a double major in art and visual technology with a focus on oil painting and computer game design. So I wasn't initially headed in the programming web development path. In fact, I thought I was going to be dodging that altogether. But I was exposed to programming and web development, over the course of my time there. I started dabbling in JavaScript because I wanted to do some fancy things here and there. And I had spent a very small amount of time on JavaScript back in school. So one thing led to another. That artistic side of my brain started kicking in. I realized the power that I had when you weren't at the whim of somebody else to be able to do those types of things that maybe you want to do on your web page. And so that led to my obsessive side taking over, and that's when I really started to dig in and really start to learn the language as well as the CSS and HTML. Interestingly, I started off in a very raw format. I wasn't using frameworks. I wasn't using anything. So for me, I was able to gain an appreciation, I think, for the basics because I didn't really know much about the communities out there that would have driven me to these solutions. It was really just, how do I do this? How do I do X or Y? And Googling that and learning how to do it in raw JavaScript. When I got started, I never had formal JavaScript training. And so I never had a way, despite, my success with my company, I never had a way to really validate that. A part of me is always wondering, are there holes in my knowledge base? Are there things that I missed along the way that are important? Part of me definitely wanted to have some way of, for myself, certainly validating that. But, also with my company, there is, we do have internal projects, but we also do, potentially pursue other external opportunities. And so having individuals as part of your team who have certifications is something that, we certainly do like to tout if we have that. And so, that was another reason that was that was compelling to me. But again, and just in terms of the quality of the process, the quality of the material that you guys provided, I had a lot of confidence in the fact that it would be a sufficient validation by seeking out that certification of kind of where I am in my development, my development journey, my JavaScript journey of understanding, the broader subjects to the more minute aspects of it. And so just looking at the material you guys have laid out, I already, understood, yeah, this is, if I were on a hiring team, bringing people into the company, these are precisely the things I would want to know that the individual is proficient in. The exam process was smoother than I think I could have hoped for. I remember, you guys were even warning that there may be issues that you might encounter, technical issues here and there, especially in the programming challenge block. But I honestly didn't encounter anything that was that significantly impacted my experience. Multiple choice section was fantastic. It was smooth. Questions by and large were clear. I was never sitting there much saying, I don't really understand what, there was no ambiguity, at least from my perspective. Even the way the documentation was situated to where you could have that side by side with what you were doing, you could pull it back up, reference it. Because I'm someone who has to go and constantly read things over and over and over again to make sure I'm doing things properly. And so that's what I did to respond to that part. I made it to where I was always just going back and looking to make sure I was addressing the prompt correctly. And you guys made it very easy and very simple for me to go and grab that. Also, the fact that you guys allowed us to use the console, obviously, as a console.logger, that was also extremely helpful as well, to be able to see that feedback. That was something I was concerned about going in, is will I be able to, will I be able to use kind of my own programming style when I'm doing these types of questions? And by and large, I was able to. So I was very relieved to see that. Go through the material. I found that to be perfectly sufficient for what I encountered on the exam. Take those practice exams at the end of each section. In the exam preparation guide, those do a phenomenal job of covering precisely the types of programming challenges, coding challenges that you will see run through it. Even if you feel, I think I kind of know how to do this. I did encounter some things here and there that weren't necessarily knowledge gaps per se, but it was a way of asking a certain question, like use an array in this method, or think about this in this way. That was like, oh, this was good. This perspective and this way of addressing a question was very helpful to know and be ready for encountering when it came time to taking the exam. Certifications.dev I have seen featured very prominently in all my various community materials, from emails and things that come in. And when you visit the site, you can tell by its visual composition, the way it lays out information, that it is of high quality. And I think oftentimes within the developer community, you can recognize a valuable resource by its outward appearance, by the way it's displayed, because time has been taken by other talented developers put into developing this resource. So I think just as a kind of a primary source for this type of thing, that being JavaScript certification or any future certifications that are added to it, what I personally believe it will turn into is kind of the nucleus for that type of thing. So whenever current or future developers are looking for that type of certification validation for whatever reason, I feel like certifications.dev will turn into that place where it's understood by both developers and people looking for developers with certifications, that certifications coming out of certifications.dev have that intrinsic value, have that they stand for what they mean. I'm sure there are many other reasons, and perhaps they will in time I will discover more answers to this question. But for me, just as the accreditation that you guys have, and that I've learned personally, I think many others recognize, I think it will, the value of these certifications will only grow in time as you guys have more people run through the program, as well as add more certifications to your platform. It gives me more confidence in myself going forward, that I actually do have a knowledge base of this thing that I work in every day, that there is no longer this question of, am I good enough? Am I, competent enough? Are there valleys and vistas and frontiers in JavaScript that had been fundamentally, misunderstood or unknown to me? And so being able to go through this experience and fill those out and shine light on all those areas, and then have a certification that means something to me in the end to undergird all of that, was fantastic. There are certainly other certifications I have my eye on in other areas that I look forward to considering. Because one of the things about being a JavaScript developer is, it is part of the community as a whole, is that there are so many tools, and even being knowledgeable in a tool you might not otherwise use, depending on your career path, can obviously be of great value to you when pursuing certain opportunities. Like, do you have an understanding of this framework or that framework, or this library? And so certainly those types of things can have an impact on what you do. So no doubt I will be, as time goes on and having already the confidence in you guys to begin with. Certainly, as you guys produce more certifications or other material that flows from that, I will be keeping a very close eye on that.